What is up, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and this is where I give commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. But before I get started, I would like to say thank you guys for watching. And first off, that short that I did, that biblical wrestling meme short of Undertaker when Amnon is in the arena, that got a lot of views. Thank you guys so much. And for those of you who did not understand the humor of what I did, it's a biblical tale of one of the sons of David having a thing for his sister, Tamar. So that's what made me come up with something humorous like that. It's a biblical humor, but I thought I'd mix that with a little bit of pro wrestling since this is a wrestling channel. Just something funny to give a laugh. But thank you guys so much for those of you who have seen it. I really appreciate that. Thank you guys for that. And also, before I get started, I would like to send my deepest condolences to the family of the wrestler Billy Graham, not to be confused with the minister and evangelist who also has passed away years ago. But my thoughts and prayers are with the wrestler's family of Billy Graham. And with that being said, let's get started with tonight's review of Friday Night Smackdown what's that? From one of the Carolinas. I forgot which Carolina it is. It's two Carolinas. It's like the Dakotas. But in any event, let's get started. We opened up the show. It's just like old times. You guys remember last year or the year before last, Roman Reigns opening the show was the norm, and it's becoming just like old times as Roman opened up Friday Night SmackDown, and the fans gave a "you suck" chant, but Roman brought it back to reality where he said, "Everyone in the Carolinas, acknowledge me." And he got acknowledged by KO Zania, as I personally like to dub them. Also, pretty interesting t-shirt. And no, that's not Baphomet, the satanic porno goat, on the shirt. That is actually a t-shirt claiming that Roman Reigns is the goat. And he pretty much is at times with help from his family, but he in many ways is a goat for hanging on to the championship for such a long time. I just don't think it's necessary to have both another championship like that, but the Power Man trip did it in 2001. Also, someone put a community post with Roman Reigns holding his Universal Championships, the Tag Team Championships, and the World Heavyweight Championship. I'm going to tell you right now, that's a joke. I know one of the YouTubers known as the Demon Girl would love to see that because she is obsessed with Roman in more ways than one, in a way that is not PG sexually. But but in any event, if that happens, if Roman Reigns gets all the championships, everyone's gonna be mad except her. And of course, one of my subscribers, the WWE Empire, shout out to you if you're watching. And no, I'm not dissing Roman. But in any event, those are the only two that I know will be happy about that. In any event, moving forward, KO Zania comes out, and they were about to have a conversation. Roman was about to vent a little bit. Venting is usually, I always thought that venting was not usually a man thing, but in any event, Roman was about to do a little venting before the Usos showed up, and Roman was upset because he had a lot of things to say. They were talking about regrets and whatnot. Then we go on to our first match of the night. We have the Brutes versus Pretty Deadly. Their entrance is slow, like John Morrison used to be about 5, 6, 7 years ago. And their music sounds like something from the late 80s to the early 90s. Pretty Deadly, I'm speaking of. But tonight we saw them. First of all, Ridge is very strong for hoisting both of them up in midair, and they got 14 beats. But despite all of that, in their first night, they won. And usually you win in your first night, unless you're Kurt Angle going up against a ruthless but invisible man. Also tonight, we saw Zelina Vega go up against Asuka. Speaking of Zelina Vega, happy birthday to her real life husband, Malachi Black. I have just released a review, so if you're a fan of Malachi Black, be sure to check that out. I released that earlier today. But whatever you do, do not say today's date. Speaking of today's date, be sure to check out my community post because I posted something very funny about how to behave on May 9 days after the 10th. Oscar and Vega, first off, nice helmet, Zelina Vega. That one was awesome. And of course, Zelina and Kayla Braxton together. Usually, whenever Zelina does an interview, Kayla is somewhere else because on screen they didn't really like each other. But I always enjoyed watching them do poems about each other. Can we get another poem, please? That was entertaining. But tonight, Zelina Vega was very competitive. We saw her use the 619 and dedic- do the Eddie Guerrero pose while doing the Sasha Banks or Mercedes Monet Meteora, but that wasn't enough because eventually Asuka would put Vega in this hole. She would tap out, but Asuka would not release the hole, which would lead to Bianca Belair coming out and saving her longtime rival Zelina Vega while setting up for a match at Night of Champions. Asuka versus Bianca. That I think is going to be good. But in any event, moving forward, we have Grayson Waller interviewing AJ Styles, who is back in WWE. And I think now, I will agree with one thing. I am a huge AJ Styles fan. I think he's cool. And like Austin Theory, who we saw later on tonight, we both of those guys are Georgia boys, just like myself, a former Georgia guy myself. But however, Grayson Waller said what a lot of people are predicting, which is that Seth Rollins would win the match. Speaking of, I the question is, can Seth Rollins juggle being a Marvel guy alongside with being the World Heavyweight Champion if he wins? Also, speaking of AJ being from Atlanta, and there's another wrestler from Atlanta on SmackDown, Austin Theory. First of all, love that T-shirt, Austin Theory Live, with the initials of our hometown, and I also loved the words on the back. Purpose before opinion. I really like that T-shirt, and I'm starting to get interested scriptingly in Alice and Austin Theory. Also, I'm thinking this would make a great alliance. Seth Rollins, Austin Theory, and Johnny Gargano would make a good WWE Avengers trio, in my personal opinion, because they are the only two I know of that are Avenger fans that I know of. If you know any more WWE guys or other guys who are Avengers fans, let me know. We can make an Avengers fantasy stable, WWE style. But either way, moving forward, speaking of Austin Theory, Sheamus is not, if Sheamus' parents told him as a kid, use your words, Sheamus doesn't use words, but he does use that broad kick tonight. And next week, we're going to get Sheamus in Theory for the U.S. Championship. And moving forward, we have the Street Profits versus LA Knight and Rick Boogs. First of all, Rick Boogs totally owned the Street Profits, bench pressing both of them separately. But LA Knight came in and got to work. But after being outplayed by Rick Boogs, the Street Profits came in. And of course, Montez Ford, one of the highlights of the night, flying over the top for a senton and going for the frog splash for the win. And not surprisingly, LA Knight turns on Rick Books. So LA Knight is really getting over with the crowd as a heel, just like The Rock used to do in 1998 before they made him go heel, go face. And LA Knight might be going face soon, but not too soon because as soon as he did that, they started booing. Sometimes you got to remind people why you hate them, why they hate you. Just like Roman does. As soon as Roman comes out, he gets cheered, and then he does something to make you mad. Moving forward, we saw Alba Fire and Isla Dawn in a SmackDown short tonight against two Latina women who are obviously a part of SmackDown. They were also in NXT, but apparently they were treated like jobbers on SmackDown tonight. But let's get into this main event, shall we? We have the LWO versus the Usos in an amazing, excellent tag team match tonight. I did not expect Rey Mysterio to kick out of the super kick and that frog splash. We saw Santos Escobar fly tonight, but as great as the match was, you would think that the Usos would win because the bloodline is just built as being unbeatable. However, tonight, due to the interference of KO Zania, Rey Mysterio was able to go for the 619 and Santos will go for the splash and win the match for the team. And Roman is not going to be happy next week at all. But there was a lot of tension earlier in the night because remember, when Roman got so mad, he accidentally bumped shoulders with Solo. So this is going to get heated. And this is very interesting. But in other news tonight, we saw a brawl on Rampage between Adam Cole and Chris Jericho, who are going to make a great match at AEW's Rampage. I will be rooting for Adam Page. No, not Adam Page. I will be rooting for Adam Page in that match they have at with the Combat Club. But Adam Cole is who I will be rooting for to take Chris Jericho down. But that's all the time I have for you today. Let me know your thoughts on Friday Night SmackDown. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and I'll be back with another review on all things wrestling. Have a great weekend, everyone.